Mom, I'm really sorry, but I've been thinking lately that I might have to drop out of college. I just can't afford it anymore. What do you mean? Shouldn't you be able to get by with $3,000 a month? Isn't what I send you enough? Wait, Mom, you've never sent me anything, have you? Her words hit me like a punch. I was sure I'd been receiving money from her every month. There's only one explanation for this. Anger started to boil up within me. The person I decided to confront was my own mother. My name is Beatrix. I lost my husband early, and I've been raising my daughter, Anita, all by myself. Our life together has always been a stretch. I never had the time or money to worry about my appearance. Did I look so miserable? Occasionally, my mother-in-law would look at me with disdain. Beatrix, can't you at least try to improve yourself a little? Your hair, your clothes, you look, well, a bit shabby. I'm sorry, I'll try to do better. It hurt to be criticized, but she was right. I had no choice but to accept her words. I've never let myself get angry or snap back at her. In the spring of a certain year, my daughter, Anita, was accepted to her dream college. It was a far commute from home, so she decided to live on her own. Anita, I'll do my best to send you money, so you have to do your best to study. Don't push yourself too hard. Remember, your health comes first. Mom, that's my line. I'll work part-time too. Don't worry about sending me money. Her thoughtful words filled my heart. Anita had grown up to be such a kind child. Even though our life had been tough compared to her friends and other families, I wanted to support Anita and make her college life as fulfilling as possible. I didn't want her to have to worry about money, so I worked harder than ever before. $3,000 a month, that was my goal. If I could send her that much, she wouldn't have to work a part-time job. My mother-in-law noticed my efforts and spoke to me. So, you're sending money to Anita. Can you really afford it? I hope that doesn't mean less for us. You know we rely on your support. I had always been grateful to my father-in-law when he was alive, and after his death, I continued to support my in-laws out of gratitude. Don't worry, I've taken on more jobs, so I'll still be able to give you your share. Oh, I see. That's fine then. After losing my husband, my income was unstable, and I guess my mother-in-law was worried. I understood her concern, so I never thought about reducing my contribution to my in-laws. Supporting my in-laws and sending money to Anita, it was more than $3,000 in total. Still, I managed to send it all, even if it meant cutting back on my own food and clothing expenses. Working all day and night was tough, but the messages from Anita always encouraged me. Mom, I've made friends. Mom, there's this weird professor, but the class is so interesting. Mom, I didn't do well in class today and got scolded, but I'll keep trying. Reading such innocent messages from Anita, I could sense she was enjoying her college life. Any exhaustion? I felt utterly blown away, a mix of pride and concern swirling within me. I had poured my heart and soul into working hard for Anita's happiness. But as time passed, her messages became sparse until they stopped altogether. A few months later, the cheerful updates ceased entirely. Whenever I reached out in worry, her responses were curt, "I'm okay." Could it be that college life had consumed her, causing her to forget about her mother? Or perhaps she had found a boyfriend and was solely focused on him. One day, lost in such thoughts, my phone rang suddenly. It was Anita. "Hello, Anita. What's up?" It was unusual for her to call. We typically converse face-to-face at home. Even after she moved to college, most of our communication was through text. "Yeah, I'm sorry, Mom. What happened?" Anita sounded down. I could sense something was amiss, so I concentrated on her voice through my smartphone. I ran out of money. I'm thinking maybe I should quit college." Anita's words hit me like a ton of bricks. "What do you mean you're out of money?" "I'm sorry, I tried my best," she said, her voice trembling on the verge of tears. I had faithfully sent her $3,000 every month without fail. It wasn't a lavish amount, but it should have been enough to prevent her from struggling to the point of contemplating dropping out. Besides, she was supposed to be working part-time as well. I couldn't fathom how she could be in such dire straits. Could she have fallen in with the wrong crowd, neglecting her studies to squander her money? I entertained the thought for a moment before shaking it off. No, that's not like Anita. "Anita, it's okay. Take a deep breath and tell me what happened." "Yeah. I was trying to make ends meet with rent, groceries, and my part-time job earnings. I had to dip into my savings, and now that's all gone too. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm really sorry." "Hold on a second. What about the money? I send you every month. That should cover your rent and living expenses, right? No. No matter how I calculated it, the numbers didn't add up. If Anita was spending her salary, my remittances, and even dipping into her savings, something was seriously wrong. But she didn't seem to be lying. Anita, you never sent me any money, did you? Her words hit me like a ton of bricks. That's impossible. I've been sending you $3,000 every month. Did you check properly? Are you sure there's no money in your account? There's nothing. I've been keeping a close eye on my banking. If you'd sent me that much money, I definitely would have noticed. The shock hit me like a punch to the head, leaving me feeling dizzy. It was clear Anita hadn't been receiving the money, and it was causing her a lot of trouble. You don't need to drop out of college. I'll send the money right away, so don't worry. Do you have something to eat today? Are you okay? You're not getting sick, are you? I'm fine. I switched to a job where I get meals, and my friends have been worried about me. They've been sharing some food with me. That's great. You have good friends. We need to thank them next time. But Anita, you're already having a hard time. I don't want you to struggle anymore because of me. So that's why you didn't tell me until the situation got this critical. Thank you. But listen, for me, seeing you in such a difficult situation is much worse. So please leave the rest to me. With that, Anita finally let out her emotions and started crying. I wondered when was the last time I heard her cry like this. After comforting Anita and hanging up the phone, I immediately took action, driven by a growing anger. I decided to confront my mother-in-law, who lived nearby. Oh my, what's the matter, Beatrix? Showing up without a call? How rude. Never mind that. What have you been doing with the money I've been giving you each month? Eh? What money? Of course, that money is for living expenses, she replied, her face momentarily twitching when I mentioned the money for Anita. I'm talking about the money for Anita. I was giving that to you too, right? The remittance to Anita was not directly transferred by me into her account. I've been handing it directly to my mother-in-law, who lives nearby, and she offered to make the transfer herself when she learned it was for Anita. So, I have been giving her an additional $3,000 for Anita's remittance. I would have declined if it was only about transferring the money, but there was a reason I didn't. That's because she said, I want to contribute to my granddaughter too. That's what you said, right? I trusted you and gave you the money. But what do you mean you didn't transfer it? My mother-in-law had convinced me with that, even though she was getting money from me. I thought it was her kindness toward Anita and trusted her. What are you talking about? I've been transferring money to Anita's account every month. Yes, I have. Please stop lying so blatantly. Anita has told me that she never received any transfers. Oh my, for her to lie like that. What kind of child is she, Beatrix? Maybe it's your parenting that's the problem. Excuse me? Hearing my own daughter being called a liar made me feel a rush of blood to my head. But if I lost my temper and forgot myself here, it would play right into her hands. I told myself to calm down, took a deep breath, and spoke again. Anita doesn't lie. If you insist on this, show me the bank statements where you made the transfers. I threw those away a long time ago. Listen, by checking Anita's account history, it's easy to see whether you really transferred the money or not. Even after knowing this, are you still going to call Anita a liar? Anyone could think of this, but when I said it, my mother-in-law seemed at a loss for words. She huffed again, muttering stubbornly under her breath. So persistent. I took a deep breath and continued, if you insist that you transferred the money, we should let the police investigate. The police? Isn't that a bit dramatic? It's not. This is about money. You said you transferred it, but it didn't show up. That sounds like a crime to me. We need to get it properly investigated. I don't think we need to go that far. Well, then I'll contact them now. No, stop. As I pretended to call the police, she lunged to snatch the phone from my hands. She missed and stumbled, then fell down and started crying. I never expected the mere mention of the police to have such an effect. In reality, I wasn't sure if the police would do anything in a situation like this where it was obvious that a family member was involved. But the word police itself seemed to weigh heavily on her. Despite her sobbing, I felt nothing. Anita, who had tried so hard not to cry, was the one who had suffered. According to her subsequent confession, she had always loved shopping. She probably had a shopping addiction, although she didn't seem to realize it. She tearfully told me about how her husband had once cut up her credit cards and how difficult it was for her. As far as I could tell, it was entirely her own doing, but she didn't seem to understand that. I suspected something was off. My mother-in-law kept getting the same amount of money even after he passed away, but I started getting requests for money earlier than expected. That never happened when he was around because he never gave me any money. When I went grocery shopping, he would check all the receipts, and I had to return every cent of the change. Can you believe that? It was awful. I felt so pitiful. I couldn't begin to understand what she thought was pitiful and didn't bother trying. In other words, when her husband was alive, he managed the household finances and kept her from having any extra money. When he was gone, I finally had some money. I started buying things I couldn't afford before, and, well, I fell a little short. Then you mentioned sending money to Anita, so you took Anita's money. Do you realize that's theft? Theft? That sounds so awful. I was just borrowing it with no intention of returning it. Anita suffered because of your selfishness. She's young, she can handle it. Caught off guard by her incomprehensible retort, I was at a loss for words. I've been deprived for so long. I couldn't buy anything I wanted, couldn't even go out to eat or travel. I had such a hard life. Young people can work and play as much as they want, so why shouldn't I take some money? I stood there speechless, staring at my mother-in-law as she cried and screamed, and all I could think was that I had trusted this person. My father-in-law had done me many favors, but now that I think about it, I can't recall my mother-in-law ever being kind to me. However, when Anita was still a little girl, my mother-in-law did buy her various things, so I thought she was expressing affection for Anita in her own way. And I was relieved. Looking back, I suspect all that shopping was just to satisfy her own desires. I failed to see that, and I caused Anita unnecessary suffering. Such a gentle child. I can never regret it enough. Mother-in-law, no, Evelyn. I intentionally called her by her first name. I don't want to think of her as my mother, even if it's just in-law. I cannot forgive you. After that, I sought free legal advice and did everything I could to recover the money, but you can't take from a person who has nothing. However, I had a trump card. Before my father-in-law passed away, he left me a will giving me the rights to his property. At that time, I wondered why he left it to me, but now I can guess that he might have been worried about his wife's reckless behavior. Naturally, my mother-in-law demanded that I renounce the inheritance, but I firmly refused. I want to praise my past self for staying firm despite being severely criticized as a greedy daughter-in-law. No matter what they say, I felt that I couldn't disregard my father-in-law's feelings. I didn't know the reason or the circumstances, but maybe I felt something. So technically, the house and the land are mine and my mother-in-law is just living there rent-free. I decided to sell the house. That meant the parasitic mother-in-law living there was in the way. So I contacted my mother-in-law's parents. This contact information was secretly given to me by my father-in-law, just in case. I really admire his foresight. That's why it's such a shame he didn't have a good eye for women. I knew that my mother-in-law had always hated her own family, but the reason became clear when I contacted them. They were a traditional farming family with strong tendencies toward male chauvinism. A stranger like me called, and they listened with a suspicious attitude, but they gladly agreed to take in my mother-in-law. It seemed like they wanted free labor. The conversation progressed quickly, and one day, out of the blue, her family came to pick her up, an event that my mother-in-law couldn't have predicted. I'll never forget the color draining from her face. When I took her brother, who came to pick her up, to her house, now my mother-in-law is doing tough farm work under strict supervision. She can't even go shopping at the supermarket, let alone squander money, and she seems to be living the life without touching money at all. Due to the stress, she seems to have aged quickly and is working every day as a wrinkled, frail, ghost-like figure with white hair. Looking at the recent bank statement of the money I just transferred to Anita, I smiled, thinking that if I saw her at night, I might scream. The house sold easily. It wasn't in a particularly good location, but once I decided I was okay with selling it for a low price, a buyer came forward immediately. The amount was enough to recoup the money wasted by my mother-in-law. I used that money without hesitation for my living expenses, and I sent Anita the money I earned from working. It's all money, but somehow the money I got from selling the house feels tainted, and I didn't like that. I've transferred this month's money just now. With that thought, I quickly texted Anita. Even if I hadn't transferred the money, as long as I had communicated that I had sent it to Anita, she wouldn't have discovered the mistake so late. I regret now for neglecting such simple communication due to my busy schedule. The reply came swiftly. Got it? The message full of Anita's usual energy, accompanied by a string of cute emojis. She checked so quickly, but these days it seems you can easily check your bank balance on your mobile phone. I don't understand it at all, so I can only admire the adaptability of the young. Since then, Anita started sending messages frequently again. With the money reliably reaching her, her life must have become stable. It's clear from her texts that she's energetically continuing college without quitting. While I was feeling pleased, another message arrived from Anita. Looking at it, my eyes widened, and I broke into a grin. Mom, there's someone I want you to meet. I didn't expect this day to come. It was all worth it. I can't sit around. I need to prepare something good. I changed my plan and headed to a high-end supermarket I don't usually go to. Since I no longer have to send money to my mother-in-law, there's a bit more wiggle room in my life. I've even been able to quit a few of the jobs I was juggling. I wonder what kind of food my daughter's partner likes. With a bit of premature speculation, I laughed. In the near future, I plan to invite the fresh-faced couple to our home and treat them with the best hospitality I can muster. I never received an allowance. What do you mean? This bombshell dropped during a conversation with my father-in-law one day. I couldn't believe something like this was happening behind my back. My name is Emma, and I'm 29. I've been living with my husband John since we got married 4 years ago. This particular incident occurred when I came home from work one day. My usually late arriving husband was already home. I sensed something was off just by looking at him. Cans of beer and highball drinks were scattered all over the floor, and his face was flushed red. Whoa, John, what's going on? I rushed over to him. Enough, I can't take it anymore, he snapped. What do you mean? You can't take what? And since when do you drink this much? That's my business, darn it. His words came out slurred and harsh. John complained about his company constantly, bad-mouthing his boss and colleagues. Something must have gone wrong at work. Trying to calm him down, I said, It's been a tough day, huh? I'm making your favorite stew for dinner tonight. Let's eat together. Despite my upbeat attitude, his facial expression remained unchanged. In fact, he seemed even more irritated. My husband kept drinking, so I decided to speak up. Hey, John, are you okay? You have work tomorrow. Maybe you should get some sleep, I suggested gently. He let out a big sigh. I'm done, Emma. I'm not going to work tomorrow. Not going to work? What's going on? Did you get into a fight with your boss? I probed further. No, I simply got fired, he muttered. Fired? That's too abrupt. Why? What happened? I was taken aback. Don't ask me. They just told me out of the blue. I don't know if it's poor management or cost-cutting, but honestly, I'm done with that place. I feel relieved now, he said with a mix of resignation and bitterness. To be honest, I was anything but relieved. We could afford our current home because both of us were working. Expenses for groceries, bills, and even money sent to my father-in-law and mother-in-law. We relied on both incomes. Now, with John fired and seriously drunk, if he doesn't find a new job, we won't be able to continue supporting his parents. With that thought weighing heavily on my mind, I decided to contact my father-in-law when the time was right. The next morning, as expected, I found my husband asleep on the sofa, empty cans strewn everywhere indicating he had been drinking late into the night. After cleaning up the cans, I called my father-in-law. Hello, is this father-in-law? Sorry for calling so early. Oh, Emma, what's going on? Well, it's hard to say, but John was suddenly fired. John got fired? Is this for real? Yes, he mentioned something about poor management and cutting personnel costs. It's sudden. As I explained the situation to my father-in-law, I felt terrible. After all, it was thanks to him and mother-in-law that my husband had his job. Ever since we got married, he was addicted to slot machines. In the beginning, I had no idea about his gambling habit and cheerfully saw him off to work each morning. I had always assumed he was genuinely working hard. But when I noticed a tobacco smell coming from my husband who never smokes, I instantly felt something was off. I confronted him right away. He defended himself, saying he started smoking due to stress. No way, you used to hate smoking so much. My husband's behavior kept getting stranger by the day. The kind and gentle man he once was seemed to disappear, replaced by someone increasingly volatile. One day, he stopped hiding the fact that he was going to the casino. Even worse, he started pouring his entire salary into gambling savings. He didn't care about skipping work anymore. All that mattered was whether he won or lost that day. Hey, are you really not going to work anymore? Shut up. It's none of your business. I'm using my own money, so stay out of it. He rudely dismissed me and hurried out of the house. As always, he came home after losing all his money. When he hit rock bottom, he even asked me for money. I'll double it and pay you back. Just lend me 300 bucks. I'm telling you, tomorrow is going to be good. You can't keep borrowing money when your husband is in trouble. His character keeps changing due to gambling. The gentle husband I once knew is long gone. Eventually, he started borrowing money just to gamble. I finally lost it at this point. Wait, what are you doing? Borrowing money to play slots is absurd, don't you think? He doesn't show any sign of remorse, no matter how much I press him. In fact, he gets defensive and blames me. It's your fault, I had to borrow money. What? I had to take out a loan because you wouldn't lend me money. This guy is totally addicted to gambling. If I don't stop him now, we'll go bankrupt. Are you kidding me? I didn't refuse to lend you money because I wanted you to quit playing slots. I'm covering all our living expenses since our savings are gone, and you still blame me. Just lend me the money, I'll win at the slots and prove it. Just listen to me. Have you ever hit a big win? I don't think so. Stop chasing illusions and face reality. Stop interfering with my entertainment. I wish you would at least stay within the bounds of reason. But my husband was fully addicted to gambling. This reckless behavior was tearing our marriage apart. No matter how much I tried to get through to him, he wouldn't listen. I was starting to lose hope. Days became long as I was consumed by my worry. It was my father-in-law and mother-in-law who finally stepped in and set him straight. Do you even realize you have a family? You're racking up debt over slot machines. Apologize to Emma now. Yeah, you have an amazing wife, and you're ruining it. If you keep this up, she'll divorce you. Father-in-law and mother-in-law scolded him time and again, stressing the importance of marriage and family. Finally, he broke down and apologized. Emma, I'm really sorry. I swear no more slot machines. Please forgive me. Afterwards, my father-in-law said to me, Emma, what our son did is inexcusable. We've also put you through so much. If you can, please find it in your heart to forgive him just this once. Seeing the desperation in my in-laws' apology, I decided to give my husband another chance. From there, it was father-in-law and mother-in-law who took on his debt and even helped him find a new job until he got his finances stable. They even sent us living expenses. It was thanks to father-in-law and mother-in-law that we could continue living as we had been. I was grateful from the bottom of my heart and sent them $500 every month to repay the favor. But now, if my husband loses his job, we won't be able to send them anything. I apologized to father-in-law over the phone. Father-in-law, I'm really sorry. I can't believe this is happening while I'm still here. Don't worry about it. It's the company's decision, right? You're not at fault. Father-in-law's kind words touched me deeply. However, I still had to break more difficult news. So, I'm really sorry, but I don't think we can continue sending money to you and mother-in-law anymore. Then father-in-law said in a puzzled tone, a remittance? I never received anything like that, you know. My mind went blank at father-in-law's response. You mean you didn't get the money I've been sending every month? The $500 we've been doing it consistently, haven't we? What are you talking about? I just checked with my wife, and she doesn't know anything about it either. That couldn't be right. I had been scrimping and saving. Last month, I put $500 in an envelope and gave it to my husband. The idea that it never reached father-in-law and mother-in-law. Emma, what's going on here? I don't know myself, but it's true that I've been giving my husband spending money every month to pass on to you. Father-in-law spoke up again after hearing my desperate plea. Emma, can I come over tonight? Let's keep this between us for now, okay? All right, I had definitely been giving my husband the $500. If it hadn't reached father-in-law and mother-in-law, there's only one explanation, my husband. I can't believe this. He must have been using the money for himself. Unforgivable. I'll make him confess everything, and he will face the consequences. An hour later, father-in-law and mother-in-law showed up at our house. When they walked into the living room, my husband looked surprised. Dad, Mom, what are you doing here? He was clearly rattled, and it was obvious he was hiding something. John, is there something you'd like to tell us? Father-in-law indirectly confronted him, but my husband pretended not to know. What are you talking about? Emma must be as confused as I am. Could you just leave? I couldn't take it anymore and yelled at my husband, "Stop using me. Just tell the truth now." My husband looked at me with wide eyes. "What are you talking about? Don't play dumb. What happened to the money I've been giving you to pass on to your father and mother? I've been giving it to you every month for the past 2 years. Where did it all go?" "It's not what you think, Emma. There's a reason for this." "A reason? Do tell. Where did that money vanish to? Explain it in a way we'll understand. Go on." My husband's face turned increasingly pale, his earlier bravado gone. He couldn't say anything. Finally, realizing he couldn't lie his way out, my husband opened his mouth. I'm sorry. Actually, I've been using it on slot machines." "What? Slot machines? You've got to be joking." It was the last thing I wanted to hear. Even after everything that happened in the past, he was gambling again. "I can't believe this. You promised you'd never touch slots again." "We decided to send money to your parents as a way to make amends for all the trouble you've caused them." "What are you thinking?" Tears spilled down my cheeks as I yelled at him. Was I the only one who thought we'd finally be able to give back to his parents? My vision blurred from the tears. His mother gently patted my back. "Just to confirm, is it true that you got laid off due to company reasons?" she'd asked. At his father's question, my husband visibly flinched. "Yes, it's true," he admitted. "John, if there's a time to correct the record, it's now. If we find out you're lying." His father's voice trailed off. Before his father could finish, my husband hurriedly apologized. "I'm sorry. The truth is, I was fired due to my poor work performance. It wasn't due to company downsizing or cost-cutting." I was speechless at my husband's words, completely dumbfounded. His father-in-law quickly pressed on. "What do you mean by poor work attitude? What the heck have you been doing?" "Actually, they found out I've been skipping work to go to the casino," my husband confessed. This is hopeless, I thought. The moment I heard that, everything felt utterly ridiculous. I had forgiven his past and decided to start fresh, to support each other. What was all my effort for? "Are you kidding me?" His dad exploded in anger. "How many times do we have to say it? Grow up and act responsibly, especially when you have a family. And yet you pull this stupid stunt again." Beside me, his mom quietly wept. I couldn't even shed a tear. All I could do was look at my pathetic husband, who just kept apologizing. Facing the enraged father-in-law, my husband kept making excuses without end. "But I'll do better at my next job, okay? It was just bad luck this time. That's it. Let's get a divorce." The words slipped out unconsciously. "What? Emma, divorce? You're joking, right?" My distraught husband looked at me. "A joke? You think I'm joking in this situation? But isn't divorce a bit extreme for this?" I exploded with pent-up anger. "Do you even understand what you've done? It's no different than embezzlement." My voice quivered with anger. "It's too late. You've betrayed us twice. I have no confidence in spending my life with someone like that. We're getting a divorce." "I can't believe this," his dad, who had been watching, nodded in agreement. "We don't consider you our son anymore. From now on, we cut our parental ties." "What? Wait a minute, Emma. Mom, Dad, you're joking, right? Forgive me, please." My husband pleaded through his tears. Their minds were made up. There was no turning back. I had him fill out the divorce papers right there in front of his parents. "Thank you for everything. Goodbye." With my packed bags and the divorce papers in hand, I left the apartment. "Emma, wait. Let's talk this over one more time. I won't do it again, I promise." "Wait for me, Emma." He screamed after me the entire time, but I never looked back. It seemed his parents had the same resolve. They moved far away right after this incident, making sure he couldn't rely on them anymore. I haven't kept tabs on him since. Rumor has it the debts from his gambling have piled up, and he's in a tight spot now, apparently scraping by and running away from creditors. Hearing about his predicament doesn't stir any feelings in me. It's all his own doing. On the other hand, I've been living a fulfilling life. I still maintain a good relationship with his parents. We even meet up for meals during my days off. Marrying him was a mistake, but meeting such wonderful in-laws has become a treasure for me. Going forward, I want to give back to them as much as I can. "Let's mark our anniversary with an adventure," I suggested to my hardworking husband. He deserved a break, and I was eager to indulge us both. For our first anniversary, I spared no expense, booking us a lavish room in a celebrity-frequented luxury hotel. It was a gesture aimed solely at bringing joy to my husband's heart, yet little did I know it would set the stage for everything that followed. Let's rewind a year back. At 28, I found myself married to Logan at 26 without the traditional dating preamble. Ours was what you might call a zero-day marriage. We crossed paths on a dating app, a decision I made impulsively one tipsy evening. Initially skeptical of the digital dating world, I found myself drawn in by its tales of the unknown, fueled by lingering drinks and curiosity. Amidst a sea of conversations that often fizzled out, Logan stood out. After a month of daily exchanges, we agreed to meet, and from the moment we did, it felt like reconnecting with an old friend. On our first meeting, Logan proposed the idea of dating with marriage in mind, and despite my reservations, I went along with it. It was swift, perhaps too swift, but there was an undeniable pull between us. Before long, we were arranging family meetings, caught up in the whirlwind of our budding relationship. Looking back, I see now the signs I missed, the subtle cues that hinted at what was to come. As we gathered for the family meeting at Logan's home, his excitement was palpable. "Mom, I've brought home my future wife," he announced proudly. Though I felt a twinge of self-consciousness, his mother Grace and sister Lily matched his enthusiasm, setting the stage for the next chapter of our story. As we exchanged pleasantries, Grace warmly greeted me, dispelling any formality. "Let's drop the formalities," she said with a smile. "We're becoming family after all." Her words filled me with warmth, reassured by the prospect of joining such a welcoming family. The tension dissolved instantly, replaced by a sense of familiarity that made it seem as though we'd known each other for years. Just as I was basking in the newfound ease, Lily posed an unexpected question. "So, how much do you make a year?" she inquired, her curiosity bordering on intrusive. Logan swiftly intervened, offering an explanation. "I've just started a new job, so it's entry level for me. Cho's been a nurse for 8 years, so she earns about twice as much," he explained, a hint of pride in his voice. Grace's response caught me off guard. "Wow, you're rich. What a fortunate marriage," she exclaimed, patting Logan's shoulder approvingly. Although his modesty belied the situation, I couldn't shake the unease that crept in. The absence of Logan's father for the past 5 years meant they relied on Lily's part-time cleaning job and Grace's pension. Logan contributed from his meager earnings, a fact that seemed to escape the conversation. Then came the question of our living arrangements. "Where will you live?" Grace inquired, her curiosity tinged with expectation. "We have a condo," I replied, admitting I'd bought it last year, never anticipating marriage. Lily's response veered towards surprise and a hint of envy. "You own a condo. Must be nice," she remarked, a subtle suggestion of newfound wealth. I hastened to clarify, emphasizing that I financed it myself and that the mortgage wasn't significantly different from renting. Grace's tone shifted, expressing reliance and a hint of expectation. "We'll be counting on you from now on," she stated, alluding to potential future assistance. The notion of sharing as a family left me unsettled, but I chose to defer the discomfort for another time. With gratitude and a promise to seek guidance, I excused myself, eager to leave the spotlight. Our aversion to being the center of attention led us to forego a grand wedding ceremony, opting instead for a simple paperwork filing, a decision influenced by my demanding job. I rarely wore rings, so opting for a modest one seemed sufficient. There was no grand proposal with an engagement ring, but I accepted that this was the reality of our situation. After tying the knot, we both remained diligent in our work. Taking charge of our finances, I started stashing away funds, gradually building a safety net for our future. However, after 6 months of marriage, I stumbled upon a concerning discovery. $2,000 had vanished from our account. The only plausible culprit was Logan. Confronting him that evening, I questioned the disappearance. "Did you know $2,000 was withdrawn from our bank account?" I demanded, urging him to contact the bank. Initially taken aback, Logan swiftly adopted a defensive stance, brushing off the issue as a mere loan to his mother. Infuriated by his nonchalant attitude, I pressed him further, emphasizing the importance of communication in financial matters. His dismissive response only fueled my frustration. With a sinking suspicion fueled by a previous encounter where his mother boasted of a casino win, I realized the money likely fueled her gambling habits. Up until then, our savings were pooled, but following this incident, I resolved to squirrel away extra funds separately. Despite this rift, I assumed Logan's demeanor would remain unchanged as long as family matters didn't surface. He was diligently employed, after all. However, our first wedding anniversary prompted a desire to deviate from our usual frugality and indulge in a bit of extravagance. Excitement bubbled within me as I arrived home, eager to unveil a surprise trip to Logan. However, my anticipation was dampened by the presence of Lily, who had been making frequent appearances lately, a routine that was starting to wear on me. Returning home after a taxing day of work to find her there was becoming a source of stress. In hindsight, the timing couldn't have been worse for sharing the news of our planned getaway. Yet I couldn't contain my enthusiasm about the luxury hotel reservation I had painstakingly secured. Logan's eyes sparkled with delight at the mention of the trip, but it was Lily who reacted most fervently. "Is it that hotel from the TV ads?" she exclaimed incredulously. Her tone carried a hint of envy, which I met with a confident explanation. "Since we've never taken a trip alone, we decided to indulge this time," I asserted, recounting the nerve-wracking experience of securing the booking on the day slots opened. Lily's response dripped with resentment. "How unfair of you," she retorted, her words tinged with bitterness. "Just because you're a nurse doesn't mean you should hog all the travel opportunities." She appealed to a sense of familial obligation, urging us to relinquish the trip in an act of filial piety. However, I couldn't overlook her penchant for travel despite her claims of financial strain, nor her propensity for fare evasion, a behavior she boasted about shamelessly. Her thinly veiled attempts at manipulation left me resolute in my decision. "Absolutely not," I declared firmly, determined to stand my ground. "We've been saving for this trip, and Logan works tirelessly. We deserve this splurge." Lily's displeasure morphed into a pointed remark directed at Logan, casting aspersions on my character and our marriage. Despite the discord, I remained steadfast in my resolve. There was no way I would forfeit our long-awaited trip to appease Lily's sense of entitlement. I felt a surge of anger as Logan remained silent, his gaze fixed downward. His inability to defend me only fueled my frustration. As Lily departed, her muttered remark casting me as the villain, Logan's puzzled expression mirrored my own disappointment. The excitement surrounding our trip dissipated, replaced by an uncomfortable tension that lingered as we retired for the night in an awkward silence. Normally, a good night's sleep would ease my troubles, but the following day brought an unexpected turn of events. Logan's words struck me like a blow when he suggested going on the trip with his mother and sister instead, excluding me entirely. I was taken aback, vehemently opposed to the idea. I couldn't shake the suspicion that his sudden change of heart stemmed from the late-night texts flooding his phone, likely filled with manipulative words from his family. His accusation of my heartlessness only deepened the divide between us. Marriage, he argued, was about uniting families, not individual desires. Yet I couldn't shake the feeling of being unfairly targeted. Despite our attempts to reason with each other, the conversation devolved into a stalemate, leaving us at an impasse. The disappointment was palpable as what was meant to be a joyous occasion now soared into a source of conflict. Returning home the next day to a tense atmosphere, I found my mother-in-law and sister-in-law waiting for me. With a smug expression, my mother-in-law declared, "Welcome back. We've resolved the trip matter. It's settled. The trip will be for me, my daughter, and my son." Shocked into silence, I turned to Logan for an explanation, though deep down, I doubted any justification could appease my frustration. Logan's response only fueled my disbelief. "It's as my mom said," he explained. "I shared our recent issues with her, and she proposed this solution. I'm going, you're staying. That's final." Outraged by the lack of consideration, I finally lost my temper, demanding an explanation for their irrational decision. But Logan's reply was laced with venomous words, his anger boiling over. He belittled my profession and reduced me to a mere source of income, revealing a side of him I had never seen before. His psychological abuse cut deep, leaving me feeling foolish for the efforts I had invested in our relationship thus far. Witnessing the altercation, my sister-in-law interjected, urging us to make amends and join them on the trip. But the thought of acquiescing to their unreasonable demands was too much to bear. I couldn't tolerate Logan's dependency on his mother and sister any longer. I've reached a point where I realize I don't need to hold on to affection for Logan or his family anymore. My once warm feelings have cooled to the point where it feels like I've been living in a dream. The idea of going on a trip with someone I've grown to dislike so intensely is unbearable. If his family holds such significance for him, then perhaps it's time to end our relationship. Let's proceed with the divorce, just as I suggested. It seems like the only logical solution to this impasse. Logan agrees, albeit with a hint of relief, suggesting we discuss it further after the trip. For now, he insists, the trip must take precedence. Feeling defeated, I reluctantly concede, allowing his family to have their way. When I inform Logan of my decision, he's quick to express his gratitude, assuring me he'll buy me a souvenir and even suggesting I might want some time alone to relax. His cheerful demeanor grates on me, but I've resolved to see this through. Taking matters into my own hands, I arranged for the hotel reservation to be changed to Logan's name and adjusted to accommodate a party of 3. On the day of their departure, I take the day off to see them off, observing their excitement with a mixture of resignation and amusement. Their overly packed suitcases for a one-night trip draw a chuckle from me as they set off. With them gone, I'm left with a newfound sense of purpose. Over the next 2 days, I embark on a life-changing task, relocating all of Logan's belongings to a rented storage unit. As a minimalist, I don't have much to pack up, but the process keeps me busy and focused on the fresh start that lies ahead. With the help of a friend from work, we swiftly complete the task in less than 2 hours. Now, there's no reason for Logan to return. This condo, purchased in my name when I was single, will remain a sanctuary from him. The locksmith I've arranged arrives promptly, ensuring that Logan is permanently barred from entering the premises. Additionally, I've sought legal advice from a lawyer named Mason regarding the divorce proceedings. Armed with audio evidence of the psychological abuse I endured, Mason assures me of a guaranteed victory and offers to represent me. Relieved to have someone else handle the divorce talks, I focus on tying up loose ends. Meanwhile, Logan and his family are under the mistaken impression that the hotel stay is prepaid, unaware that I had only made reservations. As a gesture for our anniversary, I had even arranged for a fancy cake and champagne, intending to surprise him. However, all expenses were to be settled at checkout. As anticipated, my phone buzzes incessantly around checkout time, but I ignore the calls with a sense of satisfaction. I can only imagine their shock when confronted with the hefty bill at the hotel. True to my expectations, I end up in police custody, unable to pay. Washing my hands of the situation, I send the divorce papers and the key to the storage unit containing Logan's belongings to his family home. With Logan and his family out of the picture, my condo returns to its peaceful state. I had prepared for the inevitable contestation of the divorce, with Mason handling everything on my behalf. Despite their financial struggles, Logan's family manages to scrape together enough money to secure their release. However, upon their return, their aggression leads to police intervention. Given the ongoing divorce mediation due to Logan's psychological abuse, he is slapped with a restraining order. Unable to afford a legal battle, his family quickly agrees to the divorce, bringing closure to the tumultuous chapter of my life. In the divorce proceedings, I assert my right to compensation for the psychological abuse endured during our marriage. Surprisingly, becoming single again proves to be less daunting than anticipated. Meanwhile, it appears that Logan's family continues to rely on his income, likely exacerbated by his gambling habits that he couldn't seem to shake. Logan's own employment instability becomes evident as he struggles to hold down a job, often calling in sick or even quitting impulsively. Despite my concerns about his behavior, he dismisses them, citing mental health issues. However, his inability to maintain steady employment leads to financial strain for his family. His sister's unemployment adds to their financial woes, and their refusal of welfare assistance only compounds their debt. To make matters worse, I've noticed suspicious characters lurking around their home, adding a sense of unease to their already turbulent situation. In contrast, my life post-divorce is remarkably stress-free. Flourishing in my career, I've even been promoted to supervisor, a role that I relish despite its challenges. With only myself to care for, I find I can cut corners on household chores, allowing me more time to focus on my own well-being. Though I hadn't planned on dating for a while, I found companionship with Caleb, a doctor who had been a supportive confidant before my marriage. Unlike my ex-husband, Caleb is both financially and emotionally stable. Still, I approach the idea of marriage cautiously now, mindful of the lessons learned from my past. Reflecting on my journey, I can't help but feel a sense of gratitude for the unexpected turn of events. In hindsight, I'm thankful that they took that ill-fated trip, unwittingly freeing me from a toxic situation.